Still learning.
All right, well, thank you for inviting me here tonight. Willo Mens Shed is something that we're very, very proud of. But what you're probably not aware of, it did about 1.5 seconds it took. What you're probably not aware of is how Men's Shed started in Australia. It's an Australian invention, if you like to put it that way. And believe it or not, it was started by a lady in Goolwa. Her name was Maxine Chaseling. This lady here. She looked after older ladies in therapy, but every time she went out to see the ladies and take them back out to the car, she saw the husbands in the car and noticed that the husbands were in worse condition than the ladies. So she went back to her colleagues and said, what can we do for the men? They actually started building a shed for the men. This is in 1994. Right? Those men even came along and said, that's not how you do the concrete, you do it this way. So they were telling the guys who were building the shed how it should be done. So that was the first shed, not classified as a men's shed. It didn't get the name Men's Shed until 1998 when the Victorians did that. They not only stole our Grand Prix, they actually gave the Men's Shed the name as well. Alright, so that's Maxine Chaseling, and what you see there, and this other lady, by the way, too, was involved in organising the Men's Shed, one of the very first Men's Sheds, and they're into the AMSA's Hall of Fame. Those two cheese platters that you see, we actually made those, and it was made by one of the lads in our neurodiverse program, and you'll get to see him a little bit later. In Australia since 1994, there are over I've got to get my notes. 1,200 men's sheds, right, all around Australia. It's been so popular that it's now expanded around the world, and you can see New Zealand, you've got North America, Canada, Ireland, England, and there's about another 4 countries since we've made this slide up that have come on board. They also have about 1,100 sheds around the world. So the population of the men's sheds has grown and it's become very popular with the people. Who goes to the men's sheds? It was designed for retired men who had left the workforce. Right? Their office, and I'm going to quote Stan here because he gave this line. How long ago, Stan? Oh, you are awake, that's good. I heard him say this at the men's shed one day, and I thought I'm going to remember that because it explained it very well. When the bloke retires from his office, whether it be a factory or an actual office or where they're working, all of a sudden they're at a loose end. What do? They come home and interfere with the wife's office, which is the home. So when the man joins the shed, there's 2 people that are happy. There's the man, right, and the wife to get him out of the house. And that really does work well. We've had a lot of the wives come up saying, we're glad he's got something to do, because he gets a bit of a pain around the house. There is one, incidentally, with that 1,200, we found out in March at a conference that there are more men's sheds in Australia than there are McDonald's restaurants. And guess what? We make better hamburgers as well. But there is one place that does not. There's a town that doesn't have a men's shed. McDonald's restaurant. Can anybody guess where that might be? Tanunda? No, I believe they've got a men's shed. It's a small town, and you have to read that sign properly to realise why they kicked McDonald's out of there. That is an actual sign, yes. Who didn't get that one, by the way? Okay, the fact that the organisation of men's sheds was growing so quickly, they realised they had to have a governing body for it. And we come under the banner of Australian Men's Shed Association. They're based in New South Wales, but they look after all sheds around all of Australia. And what we do go to them for is lots of help in how do we set up a shed, where do we apply for grants. Most importantly, are we legal? Are we doing everything legally? We are an incorporated men's shed, and we have to know exactly what an incorporated men's shed is allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. I'm not going to go into any details of that because I don't know it all myself. All right, so we get some incredible help from AMSA, and we just go online and download documents that will help us say we're on the right track or we have to make some changes. That's our Willo's Mens Shed logo. You'll see it on business cards. We've got some brochures over here as well if you'd like to take one of those with you tonight. Just explains a little bit about what Willo's Mens Shed is all about. Where did the name Willo come from? I'm going to upset Karen now because Karen said it's a shortening of Williston. But for anybody who knows John Williamson's songs, he made one up about every man needs a shed. Right? And he actually has a big shed on his own property, and it's called Willo Shed. Right? I believe that's where Willo's got its name from. But we're sort of 50-50. Is it a shortening of Williston to Willo? Or is it Willo Shed there? We're trying to convince everybody it's Willo Shed, but we live in Williston. Now, one thing that we do is thrive on humour at the shed. Does anybody know who that gentleman is sitting under the tree? He's a local. His name's Angelo. Don't ask me what his surname is, we never get to talk to him. He actually, all he does at the shed, he comes to sweep up for us. He cannot communicate with you too well, he stutters. He's got dementia, and he loves coming to the shed because there's lots of jokes around. So every time he sits under that sign which says Tree of Knowledge, somebody walks up to it and does this. And it's probably going to be hard to see from there, that does say Bullshit Corner. All right. We cannot stop him laughing when he does that. And at the end of the day, he goes home really happy. But there are a couple of others that we turn the sign around on as well. And it's really true what the sign says. What was that, sorry?
I said, it can only happen in Australia, surely.
Oh, you're not wrong there, yeah. We've had a couple of Irish people over looking at our shed, and they're taking this back to their shed. But they've got to explain to the people what Bullshit Quarter means. They call it something different in Ireland. We have a wood workshop, a metal workshop. We have people who do gardening. This is our recreational area, and it's grown to the stage now where we had to clean the recreation area out because it's where we assemble things, store things. But we're getting too many members that were coming in that could not go to the benches to do some work. So we had to make a safe area for them to actually sit and enjoy themselves. Since COVID, we've had to put tables for COVID spacing. And people have got so used to sitting at those tables now instead of going into the lunchroom. That's where they remain for sitting for their lunch. We do 8-ball, darts. We have a huge television that's connected to the internet so they can go to YouTube if they're YouTube junkies. We've also got computers. We've got computers that are connected to the internet, so we get the younger people teaching the older ones how to get safely onto the internet, and that's really fun to watch. A lot of businesses around Gawler have helped us tremendously. One in particular, you see this toolbox here. Don't worry about the spelling there. That was done in a hurry, and when I pointed out you've left the letter out, I said, no, it says stack. Oh, yeah. And then he put the N in. We had a call from Bunnings one day saying that Sid Chrome asking us to give all of their out-of-date spanners to men's sheds around the place. So they said, would you like some spanners from us? And we said, yes. So we drove up there, and they said, where's your trailer? What do you mean? I said, well, you'll need a trailer for it. So we got the cabinet, all of the drawers which are still in display crates, given to us, and the total's $1,700. There's nothing wrong with the tools at all. It's just that Sid Chrome will come out with some newer stuff. They didn't want the old stuff back, so they said give it to the new men's sheds. It's not just Bunnings, Stratco give us a lot of support too. We have organisations around Gawler, like the Gawler Rotary, has been incredible to us. Arms Engineering, the council through Karen as well. Without these people, we would be struggling as a men's shed to keep going. But the fact that we're getting all of this support coming in makes it a pleasure to be able to keep the men's shed going and keep the numbers coming into the shed. That's the lunchroom where we used to fit most of the people. A lot went outside to eat, most fitted in there, but now we have to flow over because on a good day we can get into up to 60 people. All right, so trying to get 60 people in there is pretty hard. We do work on an honours system with drinks. We explain this as we walk through the place with new members. We have a handout that we give to them, and we tell them about the honours system for the drinks. If you want to buy a soft drink or a bottle of cold water, we show them the fridge it's in, and we say they're $1 each. There's the box alongside, you put your money in. If you haven't got it this time round, put $2 in next time. And the same is for the lunchroom. We have tea, coffee on the go, and we ask them to put $1 into the honesty box for that drink. That money goes towards our Christmas lunch at the end of the year, and we find that not too many of them hold back, and they realise that the money's going to be used for them at the end of the year, so they're pretty good with their honesty system. These are two of our oldest members that do have problems, and you might recognise them. I did ask permission when I'm talking about them if I could use their names, and they said yes. So we've got Tommy and Stuart, right? They cannot do too much at the bench. So we make sure that we keep them in an area where it's nice and clean and give them plenty of things to do. So we make wooden games for them to play, like a chessboard and other types of games. Now there's a TV they can sit and watch anything on the internet or watch the local television. "2017 was our 10th birthday. We celebrated it in a big way, and I believe I'd only really just got into the shed at this stage. I know I started in 2014, but not coming on a daily basis type thing. I believe that might be Tony Piccolo over there. All right, he was giving a talk to the members. All right, we did have demonstrations going. Does anybody know that gentleman? I'm not sure who it is, but another person that was invited to come up and give a talk as well. Carbotech, for those blokes who are into tools and that type of thing, Carbotech sells a lot of woodworking machinery. They came out and did a demonstration. This is called Saw Stop. And the idea is they're trying to encourage all men's sheds to get one of these saws into the shed, because if your finger touches that blade, and they're using the sausage as an example there, this is what happens to the blade. It just drops down straight away. Right? You might get a little nick on your finger, but you walk away with your finger. How does that work? Your body conducts electricity, and there's a small charge going into the blade. The moment it hits something that they know there's a change from wood to something that's soft, like the sausage or your body, it'll just drop down straight away. If you were watching it, you would not see it go. That's how quickly it goes down. That's the blade with the brake system on that snatches it back down. One of the guys was going to take that saw blade home, rip the brake system off, and then bring the saw back so that we could use it on our table saws. And we said, no, that seems to be a waste. We'd forget about that demonstration. So what we did something a little bit different with it. We turned it into a clock. All right, and that sits above the office door, and you can see the first verse of John Williamson's "Every Man Needs a Shed" burnt into it. When we put that into the Gawler show, that actually won first prize. All right, so we're very proud of the people who made that. This is at the village fair, which has been off for about the last 2 years, and it's coming back on this November. And we go along to actually help set the village fair up, and then we start setting our stalls up there. So we're looking forward to that coming around again this year, because we've got a lot of new things that we're going to sell, and we know that we will sell all of the items because it's coming up to Christmas. People have missed it for the last 2 years, so we know that the village fair is going to go really well. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. They're all still members of the shed. This was taken probably about 4 years ago. All right, the gentleman in the background, he's no longer a member of the shed, so we do retain members really well. And one of the things that keeps them coming back is, one, we laugh and joke all the time, and two, we do care for each other as well. All right, we listen to any problems that they have, and we find that they walk away feeling as though they are part of the shed. He was our oldest member, our youngest member, and that's Jackson. 2019, at that particular village fair, we had this lady come along and said, "Do you have a program for young people with autism?" And we looked at the committee members and said, "No, we don't." So they came away. I was not on the committee at that stage. They came away and said, "We'll have a talk about it and we'll get back to you." We did find out that whoever put the hand up, which was me, having worked with Scouts for 30 years, had to go and get a police check done. Right? That was the one that took the longest. It took nearly 5 weeks for it to come through. Then we had to do what is called a RAN form, Report Abuse and Neglect, on the internet. And it's a form that if you get it wrong, you don't. You get sent back. And you can only get it right because they want you to be successful. We phoned up, Jackson's mum's name is Denise. When we phoned up Denise on the Thursday night, we said it's a goer. We've got one person ready with the police check and the report abuse and neglect form. And she said, "That's fine, I'll tell my son tonight, we'll be at the shed tomorrow." And I said, "Have you told him yet?" She said, "No, just in case it didn't happen." When they came to the shed on the Friday, she said that Jackson went to bed with a smile on his face, slept with a smile on his face, and came into the shed with a smile on his face. We were standing at the big sliding door watching him coming over from the car park, and we were going, he was 6'4", right? And you'll see a picture of him shortly standing alongside me, so you'll know how big he was. He suffers from autism and dyslexia, and yes, I can tell you what his name is, I can tell you what his issues are, because he's given me permission to talk about him, as the other lads in the program as well. All right? Now, that's me on the left. Jackson on the right. He looked a lot smaller in the previous picture, didn't he? So, he actually is a brilliant lad to work with. He did not start a conversation when he first came to us. We took him around to introduce him to the people, and it was yes, no. Right? To help him with his dyslexia, what we did, we wrote a lot of one-liners out. And we got him to read them at his own pace, and then he had to write one of them on the blackboard. And that was every Friday when he came along. The one that he particularly liked, and the one that all of the members liked, is he wrote up there, "If you want an ark built, I know a guy." And we'd already teed the guys to walk up to him and say, "Sorry, Jackson, I don't know what that means. Can you explain it?" And that got him into a conversation straight away. All right? What's that funny thing? This is the very first project that we work on with the lads. It's called A Cube in a Cube. I actually have one, it's in the bag here, but I'll put it on the table for you to have a look at. What it allows us to do is work with the Men's Shed motto. Men don't talk face to face, they talk shoulder to shoulder. All right, we get more out of a bloke standing at the same bench talking to each other without looking each other in the face. So our very first project is working at the drill press, making this cube in a cube. Standing with Jackson alongside of me, and we're just chatting away there, and he talks more without people looking at him than if he does if people are facing him. Alright, so I'll put that item on the table. It's in this bag here just now. And it's a fascinating thing. The reason it's left in the raw state, we had people saying, how did you get it in there? Did you split it open and put the block in? No, we didn't. So it took me about 10 minutes to explain to Jackson how we're going to make it. The moment we made it, one of our members came up and said, "Ooh, how did you make that, Dave?" And I said, "Jackson, you explain it to him, mate." And Jackson explained it exactly word for word what I'd said to him about an hour and a half before, which told me one thing about people with dyslexia. They've got a brilliant memory because they struggle to write things down so they remember it. And when the member said to me, he said, "I didn't understand the word," Jackson said, "Can you tell me, Dave?" I said, "No, mate, he got it spot on." And the smile on Jackson's face was incredible to watch. I said to Jackson, "How about we show him how to make one?" And Jackson gave all the instructions to this member to make one so he could take one home. And when the member said, "Jackson, you did do a good job of explaining that because you've explained it again and I can understand how you showed me." Alright, so he's a brilliant lad to work with. We're very happy to report, part of belonging to the shed with Jackson is we train him to work with other people. The other one is we give them a mock interview. So we'll sit them in the office, teach them how to sit with their body, not folded arms, not leaning on the desk, have their resume and their paperwork on the lap. So if they're being interviewed, they can say, "Here's my resume," and hand it to them. So that helped him towards getting himself an apprenticeship late last year. And he only works about 2 minutes around the corner from us, and he pops in to see us all the time. So we're very proud of him. By the way, he's not 6'4" anymore, he's 6'7". This is another one of our lads. This is Oscar. Jackson, by the way, his specialty was working with his hands, and he absolutely loves gardening. When I saw his garden at home, I thought Mum and Dad had done it. No, it was him. It was like a botanic gardens. So we try and work on the lad's specialty. Oscar's specialty, apart from stirring up the other members, he has Asperger's syndrome. He knows everything about snakes and reptiles. He even picked a mistake up at Clonley Park. There's a sign out there talking about a western brown lizard, and he said, "That's not a western brown lizard, they've got a picture of the eastern brown lizard there." I said, "Let's go and tell him." He said, no, we can't do that." Alright, but you ask him about anything about lizards, he'll tell you is right calling it a botanical name? No, the herpetological name for it. It's a minefield of information on snakes and lizards. All of his projects are to better his hobby because he's got lots of snakes and lizards at home. Mum doesn't go anywhere near them, right? But he's got them, and he's just bought himself a huge 8-foot python as well. Cost him about $800. So we make lots of snake racks to put his cages into, his plastic trays that he has the lizards and snakes in. And one thing that I forgot to tell you about these lads, anything that they make they get for free, and I'm going to explain why in a little while. What you see him sitting on is a stool that he made. He just saw this stuff lying around and he said to one of the members, "Can you help me put this together, please?" And he went into the metal shop and they welded it together. So he's sitting there having high tea. The other guy that's sitting alongside him, you can see his shoulder there. Alright? He had everybody in hysterics that day. Another one of our members is Nick. Nick has ADHD. And this is Jackson, who has been with us probably about 18 months at this stage. They both worked on making a present for Nick's mum and dad, which is a Jack and Jill suit. All made out of pallet wood. Right, some of the wood is not pallet wood, but the slats and everything is pallet wood. Nick couldn't have done it by himself without the help of Jackson. So to see the two of them working together is absolutely brilliant. This is our latest member in our program. This is Aidan. Aidan also has autism, and we sit down with them when they first arrive at the shed and interview them with the parents. I don't look at the parents, I always look at the lad and to say, what are you good at doing? And his answer was artwork. I love doing art. That cricket bat that's standing up is a wood burning, and you're welcome to come up and have a look afterwards. He did that, and we put it into the Gawler show, and he got second prize for it this year. What you see him doing now is turning a pen. We make our own pens, right? And he's made probably about 6 pens for family members. Now, why can we allow these lads to make all of these things and give them to them for free? We have a social inclusion program where some members that could have acquired brain injuries, they could be too old to drive, so they come in with a carer that stays with them all day. NDIS funding pays that carer to bring them in. Right? These lads, they don't come with a carer. We are their carers for that day. And it wasn't until Jackson first started, and Mum said to us, you know you're sending the wrong boy home. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he used to come home from school, go into his bedroom, in his uniform, play his computer games, then we'd call him out for dinner, he'd run back into his bedroom, leaving his plates on the table, and then we'd have to tell him to get ready for bed, and he's still in his uniform. Now, he comes home from school, goes into his bedroom, changes out of his uniform, goes down to the shed, working in the shed, they call him in for dinner, still leaves his plates on the table when he's finished, but then he goes back to the shed and we have to call him in to go to bed. So he's sending the wrong lad home. She put us in touch with the fact that we could apply to NDIS to receive some funding. And she said about $45. So with the committee, I still wasn't on the committee at this stage, I said to them, that's not bad, $45 a day for just looking after him. It was the following week when she brought all the paperwork in, and I said to her, I said, oh, the committee's happy with that $45 a day. I said, what do you mean? That's $45 an hour. Right, that's what we did too. All right, it varies from lad to lad, but I can tell you now, since 2019, there is another lad that we haven't got a picture of, he was only with us for a few months, but with all of those lads, they've actually injected into the shed nearly $80,000. That's 80, not 18, but 80,000. That is one reason why we would love to give them everything that they make for free. And we never hold back. To see these lads grown is really phenomenal. This young man started on a Wednesday. He started in March of this year. After about 6-7 weeks, his mum and dad came along and said, can he come on another day as well? So he now attends on a Friday. And since we've got another member that's done the police check and got the report abuse and neglect form, but they work with each other, so they're no bother. And so he's doing 2 days a week and he's loving it. And I said, do you miss school? He said, yeah. He said, not learning anything at school, I'm learning everything here. We don't just get them working on the machines, we actually do maths with them. A lot of the kids nowadays don't know how to read the clock with the hands on. It's all digital. So we spend a bit of time making wooden clocks so that we can move the hands around. If they say it's 1:45, I ask them to move it around on the round clock so that they learn how to read a round clock. Because if they go into the workforce, they might not have digital clocks to look at, it'll be round clocks. Alright, so we're doing some tremendous work with these young lads. That's me, that's Nev and Bill. These two ladies from AMSA, which is the Australian Mens Shed Association. They held a conference here in 2019. It was the very first conference that Willo Mens Shed attended, and we learned a lot from that. This was held here in South Australia at the Morphettville racetrack. One of the things that we did learn is that we're not running toolbox meetings with the members. And we did start to run toolbox meetings. We found that it became a lot more transparent. The members were giving us what they wanted in the shed, not them hearing from the committee what's coming into the shed. So we came back from that meeting all fired up, ready to get Willo Mens Shed bigger and bigger. This is our toolbox meeting whiteboard. We coincide the toolbox meeting with the monthly sausage sizzle for the simple reason we might get 40 to 50 members on a daily basis at the shed. When we have a sausage sizzle, all the freeloaders come in. All right, so we know that we're going to get as many members as possible, and they all contribute towards what they want at the shed. We get some outlandish ideas. One there, we've got Pizza Friday, and rather than say no to that, what we did at the next committee meeting, next toolbox meeting, I'd done some homework about how much it would cost to have pizzas brought in to feed 60 to 70 people. And he himself said, no, it won't work. All right, so we don't squash ideas, we do all the research first. 99% of the ideas that they bring up come to fruition. And that's what is making Willo Mens Shed a great shed. Isn't that right, Karen? Yeah. I say that because Karen came to one of our functions one day, and she said that Willo Mens Shed is the greatest shed in Australia. Best shed. Oh, well, it's getting great now. The guy that was running that conference for us, when he phones me up, he said, how much did you pay Karen to say that? I said, not at all. Karen really likes Willo Mens Shed. We applied through Rotary for a grant to build a new shed. We were getting too many people into the one shed. About 2/3 of it was woodworking, and the last third of it was metalworking. So we applied to have a shed built, and we were lucky enough to get the grant coming through. And Arns Engineering were the ones that came out to assemble the shed for us. This is the shed under construction. All right. What they did tell us, though, is we're only going to put the shed up, you'll have to pay for your concrete. It was the fact that we started getting money in from NDIS funding, that we probably had enough money in there to pay for the concrete. But what we did find out is that Arns Engineering, right at the very end, said, don't worry about the concrete, we've paid for that as well. All right, so we've had some incredible help from different organisations around, Taylor and Forgy. We've all heard of those around Gawler. They put on a charity dinner for us one night, and all of the proceeds from that charity dinner came to the shed, and we got $9,260 coming back into the shed. All right, and that was absolutely brilliant to see that. This is the chairman that I took over from. This is Nev. He is now rallying the troops together so that the opening of the shed can be official. Now we have 3 members there. Told you, Karen, you'd be in one of the pictures. Yeah. I forget the name of this gentleman. Steve, that's it, Steve Rowland. And we've got Mark Smeaton there, who was going to be coming in as the president. And Steve was he'd come to the end of his term, I believe, at that stage. Yeah. All right, so it was great to see that these people come along to our shed. And it was great to be able to open the shed. It was a brilliant day that day. We're still trying to convince all the metalwork people to keep it tidy, and that'll be an ongoing battle, I think. That June of this year, we were asked if Willo Mens Shed would like to host a shed muster, another word for conference. All right. This bloke, Bob Clifford, is from Maidstone Construction. And he's been to our shed before to talk about suicide in the workforce. Not only suicide in the workforce, but you'll find too that the biggest killer of men in their 80s is suicide. They see no value in life. Men's sheds have changed that. Right? Our oldest member's 91. Right? He's still bouncing around like a spring chicken. And he's told us, he said that I'll live to come to the shed. All right, so that's how important men's sheds are. Now, I'm on the right-hand side this time. This lady that's in the middle is Clarke, no relation to me. Right? This gentleman here is Marty Lease. He's the one who keeps phoning me up saying how much have you paid Karen to talk about your shed all the time. All right. What we're doing here is launching a competition for all men's sheds in Australia to make one cricket bat to put in for an exhibition to be held next year at Government House in Canberra. We've since made 3 bats up, and we've given probably 8 or 9 men's sheds about 2 bats each since then, because we've got the Williston Cricket Club giving us old bats. Right, we make sure that they go out to the different men's sheds. So if we get all the men's sheds in Australia to make at least 1 bat, there's 1,200 bats that are going to fill Government House in Canberra, and they will be auctioned off afterwards. It's not a competition, it's more of an exhibition. A bat like the one you see standing up will achieve anything up to $1,500 to $2,000. The best price they've got for a bat is $10,000. Right, and the money goes to a charity called Batting for Will. Now, the charity is started by Ange, and her son has got autism. He loves cricket, and his name was William. But he's always been called Willow from a very young age. And when we saw this on the internet, I actually got in touch with Ange and said, we've got more in common than you realise. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, did you read the email? Yes. I said, what's my surname? And she had it in the computer in front. Oh my word, she said, your name's Clarke as well. I said, yeah. I said, but also, what's the name of the men's shed that I am involved with? Willow. Oh my word, no, she said. So they chose our shed. They came all the way from New South Wales to launch this cricket bat challenge to all other men's sheds around Australia. And it's quite ironic. We actually stood up and told the irony of, 1, we're not related, but we've got the same name. 2, her son's name is Willow. Our shed is called Willow. All right? So we're hoping people will get on board with this challenge, because the money will go towards helping neurodiverse young people get into the workforce. And I'm very passionate about that we do as much as possible to get these young people into the workforce. Not only has Jackson got a job now, he's got a full-time job. Nick, the one that you saw alongside of Jackson making that Jack and Jill seat, he works 2 days a week at a recycling place. Oscar, that was sitting on the high chair, I told him we're going to refer to him as a baby, put a bib on him one day, and he just laughed. He works at a pet food warehouse place, which is ironic because he's dealing with snakes and lizards at that place as well. Who have I left out? Oh, Aidan, the one that was turning the pennies on that cricket bat. He came to me only a couple of weeks ago and he said, Dave, he said, I started a job in November. Oh, I know. He said, what's wrong? I said, we're going to lose you from the shed. He said, no, it's only on a Saturday. All right, so he's going to be working. What's the coffee shop in Galway? No, not Poetic Justice. I'm not sure. It's one of those coffee shops. I think that's the one. I believe that's the one. So we're all lining up to stir him up when he gets his job on a Saturday then. All right? But the fact that he's got out and got himself a job. He's got a twin brother that's autistic as well. His twin brother's an extrovert, Aidan's an introvert. But his mum has come and told us that he's coming out of himself now since he's been involved with the shed. Actually, Aidan is changed. We've got a lot of grumble bums at our shed into mellow old men. All right, it's amazing to watch them. They all walk up to him and ask him how he's going. Before they'd be all grumble bums, complaining. This is Aidan on the left, Nick on the right. This is the bat that they're holding up. Nick is the one who spent a whole day standing the bat down because it was pretty grotty. What are the red spots on the cricket bat called after it's hit the ball? Anybody know? They're called cherries. All right, and that bat was covered in cherries. It's the mark of the red ball hitting the bat that leaves what looks like a cherry. Right? Nick spent the whole day sanding the bat down, and Aidan researched the internet to get a picture to download, and it'll probably show it better when you have a look at the bat. It's got W.G. Grace, which is one of the very first English cricketers. Cricketers play in the Ashes, And at the top, it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. All right. And he looked at that and he said, "This is a bit like Harry Potter with the phoenix rising from the ashes." He said, "Can we put the two together?" So we did. But we left the word phoenix off because it sort of took it away. So he printed the pictures out. We put the pictures on the back with some carbon black underneath. He drew the pictures on. And to watch him sitting there drawing those pictures on with the pyrography pen was absolutely brilliant. Even the other guys came up to watch him do it. He was lost, you know. We had a special visit from the governor, Hugh Van Lay. He came to our shed, and this is Hugh Van Lay sharing a joke with Jackson. Alright? Hugh is about the same height as me, and he was looking up at Jackson when he was talking to him as well. He brought his wife along. Karen, you were there as well, I believe. Yes, that's correct. And it was a great time for our shed to be included in the Governor of South Australia's visit around Gawler. This is when Gawler Show used to have the marquees. COVID has put a stop to that. So we would go in and we'd help set the Gawler Show up. And based on that, they'd give us one site for free and we'd pay for two. I believe at this stage they've never charged us for any of them. So we've been getting in pretty lucky. We only had 2 stalls that time round, but we have managed now to make bigger stuff, or more stuff, more than bigger stuff, and expand to 3 stalls. So as soon as we've laid all the paintwork out, set all the tables up and for all the exhibitions, we come in and set our tents up, usually the first ones in there, and then we lay our stuff out on the day of the show itself. What you see there now is a few of our members that were there actually setting up the show itself. The other one that we've got involved with, remember was it Carols in the Park that got cancelled because of COVID? So Gawler didn't want to sit on the back sides. They did Santa's Cave in the Civic Centre. We were approached to see if we would come and help set it up, and the first year we got there, we thought there'd be other people selling items, but we were the only ones. Right? This is second year, and they asked us, "Can you make a big arch with Santa's Cave on there for us?" So we did, or Santa's Toy Shop, sorry, and we made a few other things around for the display setup. And we thought, seeing as COVID was going to be waned off a little bit this year, that they'd be going back to the Carols in the Park, but they are actually still going to have Santa's Cave. It was over 3 days, but it's now over 4 days. So you've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. It's become very, very popular. And I think even when COVID is out of the way, they will still continue with Santa's Cave. For those who have not been there before, take the time to go and have a look, because it's absolutely brilliant to watch the people coming in with their kids. And they get entertainers coming out, entertaining the kids while they're waiting to see Santa. We have lots of puzzles on the table that we challenge the kids to work with, like idiot sticks and tea puzzles. I should have brought an idiot stick with me tonight to show you. But we challenge them. And we actually, one of our members gets down on the floor with the trucks and the cars and wheels them along with the little kids. And eventually the parents just get up and say, "We'll buy that." All right? It's not done as a sales technique, it's done to entertain the kids while they're waiting for Santa to come along. And some of us are probably bigger kids than what the kids are. One of the things that we're very proud of in the shed, and we are still the only shed that has this at this current stage, and that's coming from Marty every time he phones up, is we have a shed mates board. Any of our members that are sick or in hospital get written up on that board, and if one of their mates who doesn't know that that person's in hospital or is sick, "Oh, okay, can you give me his phone number and I'll phone him up and go and visit him." And this is what we're doing. We're not just looking after the people at the shed, we look after them if they're away from the shed because they're ill. All right? And this is working really, really well. And the ones you see at the bottom where it's got COVID, they're the ones that stop themselves come to the shed because their rat test showed positive. All right. Now, I think even if the rat tests are positive, they just go out anywhere, don't they? But they said that we don't want to spread the COVID around, so we'll stay home. So just a couple of quick calls from the different members, kept them in the loop as to what's going on in the shed. And I'll throw it open to you folks if you have any questions.
How long have you been involved with the shed, and how long are you going to be involved?
I've been involved with the shed since 2014. So I drove out there mid-2014, and then from there I sort of stayed on putting the tool wall in order so that they could see where the shadow board was for that tool to go back to. And then I started making sets of drawers for all the screws and the cupboard for all the battery tools. And eventually they said, you've got to go to the that conference that there was 3 of us on, and that's when they said you're coming on the committee now. So I'll be there until I probably die. To me, it's important for me too. I'd be going crazy at home if I had nothing to do. Does that answer your question, Alan? Yeah. Any more questions? Yes?
Are the mentors making projects they design and want to make themselves, or does Willo Mens Shed take on jobs or projects that people from outside would like to have them?
We do both.
Okay.
Even though we have 100 members, in the woodworking shop there's about 6 that could tackle most jobs. Right? The others are coming in with no woodworking experience whatsoever. So we will pair them up with somebody with a bit of experience. So most of the things that we make are what we make to sell. Obviously you see some of the things that we make with the lads so that they can give them off as gifts. But we do take jobs in only if we've got the skills to work on those jobs. We don't have spray polishers or anything like that, so we've had to refuse restoration of furniture for that reason. But bit by bit we're getting more and more members who are turning their hand at things. Things like that, making our own pens, and we sell an awful lot of these. All right. At the shed I can do about 2 of those a day because of all the interruptions. Last weekend I took all the kits home and came back to the shed with 42 made. All right, no interruptions. All right, does that answer your question okay? Yeah. Any more?
Yeah, so how big can you actually grow? You've got big numbers now, but you've got sort of maximum number you can...
No, to say there's a maximum number, there's different avenues that we can go to. We have got 100, but we don't get 100 on any one day. All right. Other sheds where the numbers are growing say, you've got to come in the morning, you can come in the afternoon. All right. We do go Monday, Wednesday and Friday. We would have to have at least one committee member there if we went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All right. But the option would be, would you be prepared, and it's something that we ask at the toolbox meeting, would you be prepared if our numbers got much bigger to only come on the morning or on the afternoon? And we'd make it their decision. So we're not going to stop people coming because we've got too many people at the shed. We'd work it out some way that we could accommodate. Any other questions at all? All right, please come up and have a look at what we've done. The backs that we do have for that exhibition are absolutely brilliant. And we do have a card and a brochure there. And I'll get the... I'm hoping it's in my bag. It is, yeah. The block in the block, or cube in a cube. Thank you for having me.
Okay, don't go anywhere today. We've still got a few more things to do at the moment. But first thing I have to actually say is that I cannot join your shed. Because you said angry old men become mellow, and I enjoy being an angry old fellow, that's all.
Yeah, but we get a lot of talk about football, but not about your other subject. So that's probably why you can't get
I can't remember what the other subject was. Okay, now we do a vote of thanks, and I would ask Diane, I'll put her in the deep end tonight, to come down and give that vote of thanks. Thanks, Diane.
much. That was very, very interesting.
You're welcome.
I did go out to the Willo Mens Shed, but it was probably 2010, 2011, and I have to say that it was good, but it was nothing like you've described tonight. This is amazing.
It's much better now.
Yes, and you know, men that retire, they do struggle,
Yes.
and the women, you know, well, the majority, especially our age group, the house is the women's domain, and suddenly if the man comes into it, he's stepping on her toes, and she's not really very happy with that. So he feels deflated.
Yes.
But then if a man's living by himself, he's quicker to suffer from depression than a female is. And so the Willo Mens Shed is marvellous for that sort of thing. But then I was really surprised that you're doing that work with the youth as well. That's just incredible, and congratulations on that.
Actually, I forgot to tell everybody, most men's sheds around Australia have got the social inclusion program, right, where the carers bring the people in. We are still the only shed in Australia that has a program working with neurodiverse people where we look after them. So we are a model for other sheds to come on board, and we're constantly getting phone calls from other sheds. What do we have to do?
That's amazing. Congratulations
Thank you.
on that. And thank you again for a wonderful speech.
Thank you
and
very
just
much.
before you go,
Yeah.
there's have I got a here for you. You heard that, did you?
I did.
Okay, yeah. Oh yes, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you very
and
much.
enjoy. All right. Thank you.